Hello everyone. In today's session, we are going to talk about spotting errors exercise part 2. Let's look at the directions. The first direction is read the complete sentence before selecting the part with the error. Look for the error in the use of preposition, conjunction, adverb, and verb particularly. Keep in mind the various exceptions to the grammatical rules. Remember the sentence may not contain any error. Avoid extra effort and creating an error yourself. If there is no error, the answer is 5.
Let's read the disclaimer. The images used in a slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this deck and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathee@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images.
Let's look at the question. Question number 1. I want you to pick up the box of eggs gently and kept it in the corner carefully. You will have 10 seconds to spot the error. Okay, I hope you have found. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 3. Kept it in. Let's look at the explanation. Replace kept it by keep it. This is because the sentence contains an error in part 3. The phrase kept it should be replaced with keep it. This is because the sentence is structured in the form of a command or instruction, where the verb following want you to must remain in the base form, infinitive form, which means without to. After want you to, the verb should not be in the past tense. It should be in the base form, without to. In the original sentence, kept is in the past tense, but it should be keep, the base form, to match the structure of the sentence. So the corrected sentence would be, I want you to pick up the box of eggs gently and keep it in the corner carefully. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and consistent in tense. Let's move to the next question. I lived there for 5 years, so I know about the problems of this colony. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found the answer. Let's move to the answer. Correct answer is I lived here. Let's look at the explanation. Replace I lived by I have lived. The sentence contains an error in part 1. The phrase I lived here should be replaced with I have lived here. The reason for this is that the sentence describes an action that started in the past, living here for 5 years, and continues into the present. In the context of the sentence, since the speaker still lives in the colony. As you can look at the sentence, so I know about the problems of this colony. Because the result of this main clause is in present. So it defines that since the speaker still lives in the colony. The present perfect tense is required to indicate an ongoing state. Using I lived suggests that the action is completed and doesn't continue, which is not appropriate given the context. So the correct sentence would be I have lived here for 5 years. So I know about the problems of this colony. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and consistent with the intended meaning. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, when you will find a solution to this problem, you will be able to get this project. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the correct answer. The correct answer is when you will find. The explanation is remove will in such construction we should not use will after when, it before, after, until. The sentence contains an error in part 1. The phrase when you will find should be corrected by deleting will, so it becomes when you find. The reason is that in sentences with time expressions such as when, if, before, after, until, and others, we do not use the future tense will. In the dependent clause, the part after when, instead, we use a simple present tense to refer to a future action or event, which means in the main clause we will use will to refer to future, but in the dependent clause or a subordinate clause we will use present tense to refer to future. This is a common rule in English grammar when expressing time relationships. So the corrected sentence would be, when you find a solution to this problem, you will be able to get this project. This ensures the correct use of tense and conveys the intended meaning clearly. Let's move to the next question. Here is coming up Bachchan, said he when he was waiting for him. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is, here is coming up Bachchan. Let's look at the explanation. The sentence contains an error in part 1. Replace here is coming by here comes. In exclamatory sentence, as you can see, it is an exclamatory sentence because there is an exclamation mark at the end of it. Present indefinite tense is usually used. Example, here comes the tram. There walks Sita. In exclamatory sentences, especially those describing something happening immediately or something arriving, we use a simple present tense rather than the present continuous. The phrase here comes is a common structure used in exclamations, similar to here comes a train or here comes a bus, to indicate that something is arriving or approaching. The construction here is coming is incorrect because it uses the present continuous tense, which is not typically used in such exclamatory context. So the correct sentence would be, here comes Bachchan, said he when he was waiting for him. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and follows the proper structure for exclamatory sentences. Let's move to the next question. They got everything ready for the visitors long before they reached there. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is, they got everything. The option number 1. Explanation is, replace they got by they had got. The sentence contains error in part 1. The phrase they got should be replaced with they had got. This is because the sentence describing an event that happened before another event in the past. The use of past perfect tense had got is required to show that the action of getting everything ready occurred earlier than the action of the visitors reaching there. The simple past tense they got is incorrect because it does not convey the sequence of events properly. In this case, you need the past perfect to indicate the preparation was completed before the visitors arrived. So the corrected sentence would be, they had got everything ready for the visitors long before they reached there. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and accurately reflects the timeline of events. Let's move to the next question. I could not recall what she has advised me in this matter. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 2. What she has. Let's look at the explanation. Replace she has by she had. The sentence contains an error in part 2. The phrase what she has should be replaced with what she had. The main clause I could not recall is in the past tense, meaning that the action of recalling and the advice both happen in the past. When referring to something that happened before another past event, in this case the recall, we use the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense indicates that the advice was given before the speaker tried to recall it. In this case, she has advised me. Present perfect is incorrect because it implies a connection to the present, while the sentence is clearly discussing events that took place in the past. So the corrected sentence would be, I could not recall what she had advised me in this matter. This ensures the correct use of past perfect tense to show the sequence of events. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is several survey reports indicate that the number of drug addicts is grown gradually. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the options, correct answer, and the explanation. The correct answer is drug addicts is grown gradually. Option number 4. The explanation is replace is grown by is growing. The reason is the sentence contains an error part in 4. The phrase is grown should be replaced with is growing. The verb grow is being used to describe an ongoing or continuous process. Since we are referring to an action that is happening in the present, the correct tense is in the present continuous, is growing, not the present indefinite in passive voice, because we do not need a passive structure. Because passive structures gives a different meaning, which will be logical in this context. Is grown is incorrect in this context because it suggests a passive structure meaning which does not fit the meaning of the sentence. Instead, we need the present continuous form is growing to convey the number of drug addicts is currently increasing over time. So the correct sentence would be several survey reports indicate that the number of drug addicts is growing gradually. This correctly reflects the ongoing trend of the number of drug addicts increasing. Let's move to the next question. 4 and 4 always made 8 cannot be questioned by anyone. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's move to the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 2. Always made 8. Replace made by makes. Sentence contains error part in part 2. The phrase always made 8 should be replaced with always makes 8. The reason is that the sentence is stating a general fact that applies at all times. It means present, past, future at all times. When expressing facts, truths, or things that are universally true, we use the simple present tense, not the past tense. Since the statement refers to a fact, the sum of 4 and 4, the correct tense to use is makes present tense, not made past tense. So the correct sentence would be 4 and 4 always makes 8 and cannot be questioned by anyone. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and proper is the conveys the ongoing truth. Let's move to the next question. If I was you, I would have told the principal to keep his mouth shut. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 1. If I was you. Explanation is replace if I was by if I were. The sentence contains an error part in part 1. The phrase if I was you should be replaced with if I were you. The reason is that in conditional sentences, especially in unreal and hypothetical situations, we use were instead of was. After if, regardless of the subject, whether the number of the subject is singular or plural. Regardless of the number of the subject, this is known as subjunctive mood, which is used to express hypothetical, unreal, or contrary to fact situations. In this case, since the speaker is imagining a situation that is not real. Example, they are not actually you. The correct form is if I were you. So the corrective sentence would be if I were you, I would have told the principal to keep his mouth shut. This follows the grammatical rule of using the subjunctive mood for hypothetical and or unreal conditions. Let's move to the next question. The victim tried to tell us what has happened, but his words were not audible. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 2. To tell us what has happened. Replace what has happened to by what had happened. The sentence contains an error in part 2. The phrase what has happened should be replaced with what had happened. The reason is that the main clause the victim tried to tell us is in the past tense. And the action of victim trying to communicate occurred before the time of speaking. In such cases, when referring to an event that happened prior to another past event, we use the past perfect tense. Since the sentence is set in the past and we are talking about an event, what the victim was trying to tell that happened before the victim tried to tell us, we need to use the past perfect tense had happened to indicate that event occurred earlier. So the correct sentence would be the victim tried to tell us what had happened, but his words were not audible. This ensures the tenses are consistent and properly reflect the sequence of events. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, to run a company effectively, it is very important in knowing the strength and weakness of the employees. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. To run a company effectively, it is very important in knowing the strength and weakness of the employee. Let's look at the correct answer and the explanation. The correct answer is 3. In knowing the strength and weaknesses. Explanation. Use to know in place of in knowing. Know is not used in progressive tenses. The sentence contains an error in part 3. The phrase in knowing the strength and weakness should be replaced with to know the strength and weaknesses. The reason is that after it is very important, we use the infinitive form of the verb, which is to know. In this case, the phrase in knowing is incorrect because know is not typically used in progressive or gerund form. Because know is a straight verb. Straight verbs are not used in continuous tenses. In other slides, you will learn. Instead, to know is the appropriate infinitive form that follows. It is important. It is very important. So the corrected sentence would be that to run a company effectively, it's very important to know the strengths and weaknesses of the employer. This ensures the sentence is grammatically correct and properly structured. Let's move to the next question. The cost of constructing houses are increased because of the high price of cement. As we can see, the cost of. So you have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the correct answer and the explanation. The correct answer is 2. House are increased. Let's look at the explanation. Use has in place of are or is. The sentence contains an error in part 2. The phrase houses are increased should be replaced with has increased. The reason is that the subject of the sentence is the cost, which is singular. The verb should also be singular. Therefore, the verb are should be replaced with has to agree with the singular subject, the cost. The other reason is that are increase make a passive structure which is giving an illogical meaning, as the sentence wants to refer that the cost has increased. Now the cost is increased by something or somebody. So using passive structure is not correct. So the correct sentence would be the cost of is constructing house because of the high price of cement. This ensures the agreement between the singular subject, the cost, and the singular verb has increased, and active and passive concept uses. Let's move to the next question. She hopes to become an engineer after she will complete her education. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 3. After she will complete. Let's look at the explanation. Replace she will complete by she has completed. The reason is that when referring to a future event that will happen after another future reference. As the word have suggests, we use the present perfect tense, has completed, or present definite tense, completes, as per the context, rather than the future tense, will complete. The present perfect tense is used because the event emphasizes completing her education, will be finished before the hope of becoming an engineer can occur. In this context, after she has completed, correctly shows that the action is completing her education is something that will happen before her goal of becoming an engineer can be realized. So the corrected sentence would be she hopes to become an engineer after she has completed her education. This ensures the correct tense is used to show the sequence of events. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is the student sitting on the dais studied here for 3 years, but they have never created any problem. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the correct answer and the explanation. The correct answer is 2, studied here. Explanation. Replace studied by have studied. The sentence contains an error in part 2. The verb studied should be replaced with have studied because the sentence describes an action that began in the past and continues into the present. The present perfect tense have studied is required to reflect this ongoing action. Using the past tense studied incorrectly suggests that the action is complete and no longer relevant to the present time. So the corrected part would read the students sitting on the dais have studied here for 3 years, but they have never created any problem. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and aligns with the intended meaning. Let's look at the next question. I have been working in this firm for the last 20 years. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the correct answer. The correct answer is 5. It is no error. The sentence I have been working in this firm for the last 20 years is grammatically correct. So the answer is 5. The use of have been working is appropriate because it indicates an ongoing action that started in the past and continues up to the present. For the last 20 years correctly indicates that the time of duration of the action, and the sentence expresses the speaker has been working in the firm continuously over this period. The structure is accurate and fits the rule of tense and expression, time expressions, so that there is no error in the sentence. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is I will inform you as soon as I will get any news about his health. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. The correct answer and the explanation is correct answer is 3. I will get any news. Explanation. Remove will. The sentence contains an error in part 3. The phrase I will get any news should be corrected by deleting will so it becomes I get any news. The reason is that when using time clauses with as soon as, when, before, after, and similar conjunctions, we do not use the future tense will in the independent clause. Instead, we use simple present tense. It is similar, as we discussed in the previous slide, to refer to future events. In this context, this is standard rule in English grammar. In this case, the action is of getting news will happen in future. But because it is introduced by as soon as, we use a simple present tense, I get, to show the action, to show that that action will happen at the time or the condition is met. So the corrected sentence would be I will inform you as soon as I get any news about his health. You have to remember in any subordinate clause you have to use present definite tense to refer to future. Let's move to the next question. A recent survey indicates that the number of drug addicts grew day by day. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have answered. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 4. Grew by day. Replace grew by is growing. The sentence is in present tense. The sentence contains an error in part 4. The phrase grew day by day should be replaced with is growing day by day. The reason is that the main verb indicates is in the present tense. The meaning the action is refers to is ongoing or relevant to the present. When the main clause is in the present tense, the verb in the dependent clause or in the subordinate clause should also be in the present tense. Since the sentence refers to a recent survey, which implies a situation is current, the present continuous tense is growing should be used instead of the past tense grew. So the corrected sentence would be a recent survey indicates that the number of drug addicts is growing day by day. This ensures the tenses are consistent and accurately reflect the ongoing situation. Let's move to the next question. The chairman had not taken any decision until he had studied the case thoroughly. You have 10 seconds to spot the error. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is the chairman had not taken. Explanation: the chairman had not taken by the chairman did not take. The sentence contains an error in part 1. The phrase the chairman had not taken should be replaced with the chairman did not take. This is because the sentence is referring to an event that happened in the past and it involves a sequence of actions. The correct tense here is a simple past did not take rather than the past perfect had not taken. In this sentence, the action of not taking a decision occurred a previous action after a previous action, which is studying the case thoroughly. When describing events in the past, if the second action, not taking a decision, is a simple past event that follows another past action, studying, we do not need to use past perfect tense for both actions. The past perfect had studied is correctly used for the earlier action, while the simple past did not take should be used for the later action. So the corrected sentence would be the chairman did not take any decision until he had studied the case thoroughly. This ensures the tenses are consistent and correctly describe the sequence of events. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is he was with me until now, so don't punish him for the delay. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. The correct answer is he was with me. Look at the explanation. Replace he was with me by he has been with me. The use of until now shows present tense. The reason is that the phrase until now implies a time period that continues up to the present. When referring to actions or situations that started in the past and continue into the present, we use the present perfect tense, has been or have been, according to the number of the subject. The past simple tense was does not convey the ongoing nature of the situation up to the present. In this case, since the person is still with the speaker at the moment of speaking, the correct tense is present perfect. So the corrected sentence would be he has been with me until now, so don't punish him for the delay. This ensures the tense matches the timeline indicated by until now. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is it is appearing to me that you are trying to destabilize the present committee. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is it is appearing to me. Explanation: the sentence contains an error in part 1. The phrase it is appearing should be replaced with it appears. The verb appear is a state verb which is not used to form continuous tense, especially when it refers to the perception and opinion of somebody. The simple past tense appears is more natural and appropriate for the sentence, as it conveys the intended meaning in a clear and concise way. The corrected sentence part would read, it appears to me that you are trying to destabilize the present committee. This makes the sentence grammatically correct and more fluent. Let's look at the next question. As per the RBI guidelines, a bank account in which there is no transactions for 2 years is a dormant account, which means dormant means not active. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is there are no transactions for. Use has been in place of is. The sentence contains an error in part 3. The phrase there is no transactions should be replaced with there have been no transactions. The reason is that transactions is plural, so the verb should also be plural, as well as the phrase for 2 years suggests that the action started in the past and is still going on. So we need to use have been, present perfect tense, to indicate that the lack of transactions has occurred over a period of time, up, up until the present moment. The present perfect tense is used when referring to actions or states that started in the past and continue into the present, or that have relevance to the present. So the correct sentence would be, as per RBI guidelines, a bank account in which there have been no transactions for 2 years is a dormant account. This ensures subject by agreement and accurately reflects the time frame described. Let's move to the next question. The sentence is, before the alarm had stopped ringing, Reena had pulled up the shade. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the answer. The correct answer is had stopped ringing. Replace had stopped by stopped. The phrase had stopped ringing should be replaced with stopped ringing. The reason is that before already implies a past action that happened earlier than another event. So the use of past perfect had stopped is redundant. The past simple tense stopped is the correct choice here because it is sufficient to indicate that the alarm stopped before Reena pulled up shade. In this case, the past simple tense stopped is the appropriate form as it properly conveys the sequence of events without unnecessary use of the past perfect tense. So the correct sentence would be, before the alarm has stopped ringing, Reena had pulled up the shade. This ensures the correct tense is used and avoids the redundancy of the past perfect tense. Let's move to the next question. By this time tomorrow, she has had reached there positively. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the answer. The answer is 2. She has had. Let's look at the explanation. Replace has had reached by will have reached. This is the sentence of future perfect tense. The phrase she has had reached should be replaced with she will have reached. The reason is that the sentence refers to an action that will be completed in future, especially by tomorrow. This calls for the future perfect tense, which is used to describe an action that will be completed by a certain point in the future. The correct structure for the future perfect tense is will plus have plus past participle, means V3, the third form of the verb. In this case, has had reached is incorrect because it mixes tenses in a way that is not appropriate for this context. The correct tense is will have reached, as it properly indicates an action that will be completed at a future time by tomorrow. So the corrected sentence would be, by this time tomorrow, she will have reached there positively. This ensures the tense is appropriate for the intended meaning of future completion. Let's move to the next question. The government has promised to revise the pension scheme for bank staff since next year. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the explanation and the correct answer. The correct answer is 4. Staff since next year. Use from in place of since. The sentence contains an error in part 4. The phrase since next year should be replaced with from next year. The reason is that since is used to refer to a point in time that has already started in the past and continues to the present. Example, since last year, since 2010. However, in this sentence, next year is a future point in time. So we should use from instead of since to indicate the start of future event. So the correct sentence would be, the government has promised to revise the pension scheme for bank staff from next year. This makes the sentence grammatically correct. Let's move to the next question. I have been admiring her for the voice with which she is gifted. You have 10 seconds to answer. I hope you have found. Let's look at the question. Let's look at the answer and the explanation. The correct answer is 1. I have been admiring. The explanation is replace I have been admiring by I admire. Please note that normally know, admire, adore, trust, believe, rely, hope, etc. are not used in continuous form because these are straight verbs. The sentence contains an error in part 1. The phrase I have been admiring should be replaced with I admire. This is because certain verbs like know, admire, adore, trust, believe, hope, and others are state verbs that describe a state or condition rather than an action is in progress. State verbs are typically not used in the continuous form. In this sentence, admire is a state verb and it expresses a state of admiration that has been going on ongoing. But it does not need to be in the present perfect continuous. Have been admiring. Instead, the simple present tense, admire is appropriate for expressing the idea of continuous state of admiration. So the corrected sentence would be I admire her for the voice with which she is gifted. This makes the sentence grammatically correct. So today's session, we are going to end the session. Thank you so much.